Yo, 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 and welcome back to Creeps and Crimes
Podcast.
I'm Taylar.
And I'm Morgan. And this is episode 102.
102. Wow. I'm just still not into the...
Three-dig.
The three-dig.
No.
I'm really not, like... I thought I would be prepared for it, but it's just like a mouthful to get out.
I feel crazy right now. I can't even explain it to you. Guys, we have these LED lights.
Yes.
Ring lights beating down on my fucking...
I can't even, like, open my eyes all the way.
Corneas. My irises.
We're going to start wearing sunglasses. I mean, I'm sorry. Is that what you want? I mean, I can't even look that way.
That's what you would prefer anyway. Every time I FaceTime you, you have sunglasses on. I'm like, ma'am.
Listen, it's to hold my hair up. Yeah, it's to hold my hair up. It's not even to do
fair.
anything.
Yeah, fair.
I don't want to put like an indentation in my hair to like put it up in a ponytail during the day. So I just...
Yeah, and it also doesn't help that my hair is in a slick back high pony. Like I'm looking like Ariana Grande right now.
Ariana Grande.
And then I got some glasses on and I got the LEDs blinding.
I bet it looks great on YouTube. If you haven't looked, like just go take a peek.
If you haven't subscribed on YouTube, please do so. It's Creeps and Crimes podcast. If you haven't followed us on Instagram, please do so. It's Creeps and Crimes podcast. And if you haven't followed us on TikTok, it's Creeps and Crimes. That's it.
Is it podcast or Creeps and Crimes?
Creeps and Crimes.
Just plain old.
You know why it's that? Because you let me make the TikTok.
Oh, well, it's okay because I made the Twitter and it's creeps_crimes and I haven't touched it in a year, so.
Yeah, we should just delete it.
No, because we need it up there. Like,
if you haven't followed us on our Reddit, it's Creeps and Crimes.
Oh yeah,
podcast.
Go join our community and give us a few ups because I keep getting us violations and I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
You're just living.
It's like
living life.
It's like no promotions, and I'm literally responding to someone like, "Hi, I'm from Creeps and Crimes. I would love to, look into this case. Can you send me some more details on it? Would you DM me? You can email me." And they're like, "No self promotions." I'm like, "I'm literally
red flag.
Red flag. She's done.
Down arrow, down arrow, down arrow, down arrow."
I'm like, my God, I'm like, violation of community guidelines. I'm like, I was asking to help with find their
Reddit
cousin.
Trolls. I would love to be the security guard of Reddit.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine just living, like that's your job? Like I know it's all computerized, like it's all automated AI, but like I would love that to be my full-time job. I sit at home. I'm a Reddit sloth all day.
Literally. A Reddit sleuth sloth.
And you're just like, yeah, Reddit sleuth, a sloth, same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
And I'm just scrolling through Reddit and I'm like, Creeps and Crimes just did a violation and we hit them with it.
And they're done.
Let's get red flagged. Yeah.
No, bad.
Funny as fuck.
So, Morgan, I need you to tell me about whatever it is that you've told me that you've waited all day to tell me.
Yeah. Actually, I've waited 2 days to tell you.
2 days?
Yeah. 2 days to tell you.
Well, that's fair.
Well, it happened 2 nights in a row. I just finished watching Devil in Ohio.
Okay.
And it's a new Netflix series. It's like about this satanic cult. And I don't want to give too much away, but the main character is like this like blonde girl. She escapes from this cult. The entire show, they want her back, obviously. Any cult, you're going to want your member back.
Yeah.
And I'm in my nightmare and I'm standing in this newly remodeled kitchen.
Okay.
And it's probably because Sunday night and Monday night, I've stayed up like before bed on Zillow. So I'm standing in this remodeled kitchen in my nightmare and I see her, the girl, the main character of the show.
Okay.
And she's got blood all over her.
Oh, fuck.
And she's throwing kitchen knives at me, bro.
Are you fucking kidding?
And the only way for me to kill her is to slit her throat. And I know this.
Okay.
I know this. And this isn't from the show. It's just like in my nightmare. Right. I know I have to slit her throat.
To get her dead.
To make her dead, but it won't slit.
Oh, shit. So you're just sitting there over and over and over again?
I'm like having to grab knife after knife and like nothing penetrates her. And she's got this evil fucking laugh and she's looking at me and I'm up close to her.
Oh my God.
And I have to be this male. Okay. I have to be this male in the dream. And I'm in this like all white, freshly remodeled kitchen, right? White cabinets, white countertops. At the end of each nightmare, I end up slitting her throat.
Okay.
And there's this little girl, brown curly hair. And it looks like me when I was a kid.
Oh shit.
Pulling on my pants. They're like, "Daddy." Okay.
What in the actual fuck did this past life regression do to you?
I don't know, bro.
I'm scared for you.
She's pulling on my pant leg. I'm like, "It's okay now. She's gone. She's gone. Like she won't bother us."
I just slit her fucking throat.
And the little girl goes, "No, Daddy. She's not gone. She's up there." And I wake up, but I don't wake up yet, but I look up to the ceiling and she's crawling on the ceiling and I jolted out of bed both nights.
2 nights in a row.
2 nights in a row, this exact same nightmare.
What the fuck?
What the fuck?
It's almost like you've crossed over with the creepy account that we did from the girl who has sleep paralysis, or it was either Emily or Kennedy. And she didn't know what it was, and she has to like lucid dream and she astral projected. It's like you're doing that with your past life regression dude.
With the show.
Yeah.
All
and
in
the show
one.
all in one. traumatizing.
No, it is fucked up.
That is
dude.
fucked up.
I literally went into work yesterday and I was like, guys, do not watch this show. I was like, this is my dream. I'm like, sorry, I know it says Devil in Ohio. A lot of my people in my workplace are like super religious.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I know I shouldn't have watched it. It's like Devils in Ohio. Like, I know, like, I don't do that stuff. But like, I had to watch it. It was about a satanic
I don't do that stuff. Covers P the D.
Covers P the D.
Civic box.
And I'm like 6 a.m. at work. And I'm like, and I had a sort of throat in my nightmare over and over and over again. I'm just freaking out and at work. And I'm like, I can't do it. Like,
they're just staring at you like, are you
like,
okay?
You need Jesus.
Let's take you to church.
So yeah, so I woke up last night after it and it was 1:30 in the morning. So it wasn't like 3.
The witching hour.
Yeah. And then I woke up again at 4 and I thought like I could see in a picture in my head of like my phone, one of my coworkers, like I had 4 missed calls from her. I jolted up. I was like, fuck, I'm late for work. But I didn't have any phone calls. It was only 4 in the morning. Oh. So I don't know what that was about.
That's really weird. Maybe you're going to be late
and
tomorrow.
I was praying out loud. After my dream at 1:30 in the morning, I was praying out loud, pulled Ollie closer to me. I was so scared.
Ollie is the answer.
Yeah. I was like, Ollie, save me.
Ollie got you. Well, that's
dream.
really weird because right before you came over, actually not before you came over, before you called me earlier today, my uncle texted me and he's like, hey, are you free? Can I call you? And I was like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, I've got your mom on the other line. Do you want to hear this scary dream that my aunt had about you?
Oh, no.
And I was like,
not about me.
Absolutely, I do. They call me into the call and it's like my aunt, my uncle, my mom, and me on the phone.
Merger.
Right. And we're sitting there chatting. They're like, this is just kind of creepy. I don't know why I had it. They're so sweet. And they're like, maybe it's your new creepy, crimey life that you're living. I'm like, I don't know.
You need Jesus.
Probably, yeah. She's telling me that in the dream we're at like a family, like a Christmas or something. And she was like, we were in my grandma's house all hanging out. The food was taking too long to get done. And I was hangry, and which like very typical of me. Then I start going crazy because they were like, oh no, it's another 45 minutes. So then I like jump up on my hands and knees on the table, start ripping everybody's flesh off and eating them.
Why?
And they're like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? I'm like, because I'm hungry, because I'm pregnant. Duh. That's what I said to her in the dream. They're like, are you pregnant? I was like, no. In fact, I know for positive I'm not. But she was like, it was so funny.
I'm staring into your soul right now.
Right. But what's so funny is she was like, the way that you answered, like, no, I'm just starving. Like
this is normal.
It was like she was like, it was just like you whenever you make your face like when you're hungry and you're just like being a smart ass. And that was it. And I was like, what the fuck?
That is crazy.
That is insane. Oh, guys, let me tell you about my last 24 hours.
Oh, yeah. You've had a day.
It's really fucking sad. This past weekend on Friday was my father-in-law's 60th birthday. Logan went down on Sunday because that's when both of his brother and sister were able to be off work and go celebrate with him. Sunday. But it was Bailey's baby shower. So Morgan and I went over there and celebrated baby and baby boy. And so, anyways, I couldn't make it down for that. So Monday, I was able to come down. So Monday morning, I woke up and I realized that the creepy account didn't upload. It said that there was no audio file. And I was like, what the fuck? So I had to go back on there and fix everything because it didn't save anything. I don't know what I was doing. And I uploaded it and I was able to leave the house by noon because I also wanted to go visit my grandmother, who I would really love if you would send just love, light, prayers, good thoughts, positive things to. She's not in like a dire condition. It's just she's in some form of ICU psychosis. And if anybody knows what it is, like, please enlighten me because no one seems to know either. So anyways, I went down there to visit her and I sat with her for about 2 hours. It was storming while we were there and we were eating at Cheddar's and we were about to order, and my father-in-law calls my husband and he's like, it's storming really, really bad out here, like so bad that trees are falling on the lines. So I wouldn't worry about coming out here. I'll just see you guys in a few weekends. And I was like, well, we'll just see how it is because they live about 25 minutes out of town and it wasn't even storming in town. It wasn't even sprinkling anymore. And he's like, all right, 45 minutes later, we're checking out, like paying our bills, and we get a call, like back-to-back 2 calls from Dennis. He never calls like that, but we just figured he was calling to let us know if it was still storming or what. We're like, we'll call him when we get in the car. So we say goodbyes to my family and we get in the car. We're about to head out there and we call him back. I can hear that he's on the ATV, like driving around, and he's like yelling to us, a plane crashed by the house. What?
Yeah.
The fuck? Yeah, a plane fucking crashed on their property. And that was really all that we got.
Like a private.
So that plane, we didn't know if it was a fucking commercial flight and they have like a big piece of land. So like, I didn't know what to expect. So we hang up with them, because he can't hear us. He gets back to the house. He calls us back, and he's like, it was a small plane. Search and rescue was able to find the plane, but the debris field starts maybe 100 yards away from their house to the left. So we hop in the car, and they're like, well, if you're coming, pick up groceries and beer. And we were like, okay, because they can't leave their property. It's completely blocked off. So luckily, my husband's address on his driver's license is still his home address, which was the first thing I thought of, because I was like, they have to let us through if we live there. What we know now is that there were this couple. They lived in North Carolina, and they had flown to Texas or somewhere for the weekend, and on their way back got caught in that random valley swell, that storm that was out there out of nowhere, and they ended up crashing their plane, and they both passed away.
So sad.
I mean, it was so devastating, and I'm just so thankful that, like, I mean, literally 100 yards to the right, if they would have crashed there, it would have been on my mother and father-in-law's house with them inside and my sister-in-law inside. Yeah. I mean, it was so scary, and I'm just so thankful that they're okay, and I'm just sending so much love, light, and prayers to the family.
That is awful.
He was a doctor. He was an OBGYN, like, just a great person, from what I was reading about them. So I'm just sending their love, light, thoughts, prayers to their entire family, and I hope you guys can join us while we do that, because it's just, I mean, just so random. Like, you never think in a million years you're gonna get a call that a plane had crashed beside your parents' house. Literally shit falling from the sky. Like, that is just so fucking insane. Like, rarely happens. But meanwhile, 2 days before, I'm sitting there sending you the article about the Tupelo, Mississippi motherfucker who hijacked a plane and was threatening to crash it into the fucking Walmart. Yeah. Like, obviously this was nothing of the same, but like, how odd is that is what the story I was following this weekend, and then this happens.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's really fucking sad. It's so sad.
Yeah, that's fucking awful.
Yeah, so we've had a pretty eventful past few days.
Past few weeks.
Yeah, we have.
We're in one of those downward spirals currently, guys, but we're trying our best to get out of it right now.
Yeah, we had to have a come to Jesus text message freaking rant freak out.
Oh my God, it was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. I literally was like, I do this in a text message.
Love you.
I'm so sorry. Like, Morgan's like, will you please take a fucking breath?
I was like, can you please take a breath?
Will you just stop texting me?
Literally slaving at work, and you're having a mental breakdown.
You're fucking too busy.
And then she's like, you have your mental breakdown whenever you're ready. Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Even if it's an hour from now.
If it's an hour, if it's 4 hours, I will answer you. I was like, okay.
You're like, okay.
I was like, I'll send you what I can right now.
It was so interesting. Dude,
it was needed though.
We need to fucking burn our SIM cards. Like,
burn it.
Burn it. Don't stand there and look at me. Fucking burn it, bitch. We're in a slump right now, which I think a lot of people are probably in.
Like, seasonal depression's definitely hitting earlier this year. Yeah. So it's a great time to jump onto BetterHelp and use code Creeps and Crimes.
Yeah, use code. Not sponsored. Not for this episode, at least.
That's not
sponsored. But yeah, it's been really interesting. So we've got a big wedding this weekend for our noodle girl. We're really excited.
We're super excited for that.
So that's gonna be something fun. That'll get us up on a high. And we'll be back, be able to sleep in our beds on Sunday night and fucking rock and roll. We got countdown to season 3.
Yep.
Are y'all even ready?
I'm not even ready.
Oh, also.
Are you even ready?
The merch store.
You're not even ready.
I'm not. The merch store goes down on Sunday.
September 15th.
September 15th. No, that's not a Sunday, is it?
No, it's
like Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, it goes down next week. Just know that on the 15th. It goes down on the 15th. And yeah, I think that's all.
And that's like your last chance to get season 2. Like, maybe in like a couple years we'll plop back out like
maybe
season 2.
Maybe in a couple years. I've never heard Morgan say that.
Okay. Revert. I did not say that.
Oh my God. All right. Yeah. This is the last time you're going to be able to see those designs. We're not bringing any of those back, at least for season 3.
If you're driving, throw that shit on cruise control.
If you got a glass, pour that shit up.
And let's get creepy. Since July of 2017, the True Crime Couple podcast, Kay and her husband John, tell you true crime stories that you probably never heard of.
Every other week, you can join John as he listens to Kay cover her research on lesser known cases. And they jump right into the stories, aka no banter, aka if you hate our intros, this is the place for you.
Absolutely. This iconic true crime couple, Kay and John, pride themselves on being respectful to both the victims and their families. The point is to give the victims back their voices.
You're going to absolutely love the True Crime Couple podcast, but don't just take our words for it. CrimeReads.com listed them on their top essential podcasts of the summer, and they have made the monthly Hot 50 list for Podcast Magazine 12 times.
A hot true crime couple and a Hot 50 list for podcasts. You can find True Crime Couple wherever you listen to your podcasts.
And again, you can tune in bi-weekly wherever you listen to your podcast to follow along as Kate takes you through twists and turns of each and every case that are lesser known and you may not have ever heard of before. Okay, Morgan, what do you have for us today?
Okay, so lately I've been really throwing you guys a curveball between time travelers and the fucking government this and government that. I figured it was time to get creepy. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the Eloise Psychiatric Hospital.
Okay.
It was formerly known as the Wayne County Poorhouse in 1832, and then the Eloise Psychiatric Hospital has been through many names. I'm talking the County House Infirmary, the Crazy Hospital, the Eloise Sanatorium, and then the Wayne County Asylum.
Wow.
And those are just only like the big names. Like there were still names for like 1 month here and like 1 month there. Like it just fucking changed like every single second of every single day. The Wayne County Poorhouse, which was its original name, was founded in 1832 and it was in pretty rough shape.
Okay.
It was located in between Gardiot and Mount Elliott Avenues in Hamtramck Township, which is 2 miles from the Detroit city line. By 1834, they realized that the poorhouse was like literally falling apart. Like I said, it was in bad shape, but it was like falling apart. Like the floor was like falling in.
Condemned.
Yeah. Therefore, the board purchased a 280-acre property in Nankin Township. Out of the 146 patients that were at the old property, the Wayne County Poorhouse, only 35 people moved to the new building when it was finished. Oh. And this is because of 2 reasons. One, it was a 2-day stagecoach ride to get there.
Holy shit.
This is in 1830. And 2, the new location was more like surviving in the wilderness than a hospital. And they would rather deal with the crumbling, condemned building.
Like
there was no good reviews on Yelp at the time.
Obviously, there was no good TripAdvisor reviews.
Obviously, it had 0 stars and down arrows on Reddit.
Right.
But while it only had 35 patients, it was still popping. One of the main stagecoach stops for travelers traveling between Detroit and Chicago was located on the property, and this was the Black Horse Tavern, which is what a lot of bars in any city are actually named. Do you know that? I'm pretty sure Knoxville has a Black Horse Tavern.
We have Black Horse
Brewery.
We do.
It's named after the stop.
And it's like one of the oldest breweries in Knoxville.
Yeah, interesting, right?
Very interesting.
So you had your 35 patients, I guess, just like chilling at the bar. It was probably fucking lit. Like, yeah, you're in the wilderness, but you also had the bar. Because that was all that was there. It was like this log cabin Black Horse Tavern.
It literally beside
and they bought all of these acres, but the only building at the property was this tavern bar. And they like were moving these patients in before they even had a fucking building.
And like, why are we okay with patients having a bar?
Right.
I feel like
the bar was there first, but then they bought the property, and then they're moving patients. So then the patients were, I guess, were just
getting
like
getting
litty with all like the
morphine.
People,
no,
the people traveling from like Detroit to Chicago.
Yeah,
they're just like, hey,
what's going on?
And they're just patients. So then an A-frame building was put into place to house patients. Finally, a couple years later.
Thank God.
And then another A-frame cookhouse was thrown into the back of like this building. So do you know what I'm talking about?
Like on the backside of it?
Yeah, on the backside of it.
Was it attached or just separate?
It was attached.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
For cooking for all. So they made the patients cook, they made the staff cook, they made the families of the keepers cook. The then 2-building hospital began to grow larger and larger every single day, every month, every year. By the 1900s, it became self-sufficient in one of the largest hospital complexes in the country.
Wow.
It had its own police and fire departments.
Oh.
It had its own zip code. It had its own railroad and trolley system. It had a bakery, an amusement hall, and a laundry facility. It had its own post office, which is actually what gave the hospital its name, Eloise Psychiatric Facility. Prior to 1894, there were no post offices or railroad offices located at any institution. ever in the country. And this like really slowed deliveries to the area and all of Detroit, because this location of the psychiatric facility was like what you would consider one of the
like the
first
city hall,
stops.
right?
Yeah, like a city hall to the city from like any other major conjoining city. Like you have to pass through this area. So it would be a great place for a post office.
100%.
So the superintendent of the hospital motioned for a post office to be placed in this institution. And the postmaster general approved the location, but they were only allowed to have a short one-word name, and it couldn't be similar to any other names of post offices that had already existed in the state of Michigan.
Holy shit. They're like, good luck.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, you can have one here, but like
you're gonna have to call it like fucking Dicks R Us to be able to get it.
That is 3 words. It's one word. You can call it Dicks.
Dicks
Post Office. So the president of the board, his name was Freeman Dickerson.
How did I know?
So Freeman Dickerson had a 4-year-old daughter named Eloise, and they submitted the name, sent it to Washington, and it was approved.
Perfect.
They then changed the name to Eloise Asylum, then to Eloise Sanatorium, and then to Eloise Hospital, and so on.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what year was it that they had the hospital again? The post office.
1894.
Okay, 1894. Can you imagine? Okay, like now we want to name something. Okay, we want to name our podcast Creeps and Crimes. So what do? I hop on and do a domain search, and then I do like a trademark search, and I just Google it. It takes me 5 minutes. To fucking back then, to get your name approved, to get a domain,
send it to Washington.
You literally have to send it off and pray to God that they don't deny it, because if they do, you're back another 5 weeks on your...
I know, because it's going to take 5 weeks to get there.
Right.
I mean, really, you're trying to motion for the first post office or the closest post office to Detroit.
The patience you had to have, it must have been just beyond, above and beyond.
I wouldn't have any fucking patience for that. That's for sure.
But you know what? You would, because you'd be like, oh, I did express shipping 5 weeks. Like, yeah. Talk to you guys in 10.
They're like, pay an extra penny for
right. And a penny's like
express shipping.
You can buy a house.
Year.
Right.
Yeah. Fucking crazy.
That's insane.
So anyway, Eloise also had its own power plant, and it's on a farm that was huge. Like I'm talking, this farm had its own dairy herd, dairy barns, pigs, root cellar, tobacco curing building, and greenhouses. Like this institution became so self-sufficient that people in the town were relying on it.
Right.
Like they were the town.
They truly could not send shit out.
Everything, without
this.
Yeah, so patients in the beginning were trained in like sewing and painting or carpentry and farming, and these practices were used as means for rehabilitation, and they were treated relatively well besides their time at the tavern. But in 1895, an annual report showing a table of causes of insanity for the patients in the asylum included, this is what they had listed for their reason
Witchcraft.
of asylum. No, disappointment in love.
Okay, keep
so
going.
I guess heartbreak.
All right.
Epilepsy.
Okay.
Hereditary, like insanity. Overstudy. So I don't know if that
overstudy, like that's their condition, or like
I don't know. I'm thinking, this is what I'm thinking of it. They become obsessed. Like I'm thinking OCD.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah, like OCD. Yeah. Okay.
Interesting, right? And puerperal fever. I know I'm saying that word wrong. Perpetual.
Oh, okay. That's,
you know what I'm fucking talking about.
The first.
It's back in like 1800s.
Dude, that word is a second word in my kidney disease that I have.
Really?
Yeah, and I can never fucking. They're like, what does that stand for? I'm like, literally don't know.
I don't know.
Can't pronounce it.
Yeah, I don't know how to say it either.
Yeah.
So this same year was the year of the discovery of X-rays. So there was a man, a botanist at the hospital named Mr. Keenan. He had some pretty good knowledge of like electricity, and he was able to use his knowledge to construct his own X-ray using this static machine in the hospital laboratory. So by July of 1896, the very first X-ray picture in Michigan was taken here at the institution.
That's really fucking cool.
And it took 45 minutes to take an X-ray, meaning you had to stand still for 45 minutes.
40.
I would be like, my arm is not broken. Actually,
update. Yes, it is hanging by a thread. It's not broken,
but it's not.
It's fine.
For the next 5 years, nearly all the X-ray plates prepared for physicians in Detroit were made here at Eloise.
Wow.
Patients were coming from all over, from Detroit, from other states, to have X-rays taken because they were one of the first, besides I think out in like New England area.
Yeah.
Like it all started out in, I want to say Germany was like the very first X-ray, if I remember that right, from like college. And then at Harvard, I remember seeing that on my research. I don't remember the first exact, but I think it was a German like physicist that created X-rays.
That's really cool.
And then Harvard was the first in the United States. So like this was the first Midwestern. So people from all over were coming to get x-rays. It was like the breakthrough of medicine.
Right.
But as Eloise grew to an outpatient facility, because they were bringing outpatient people in all the time for these x-rays, they were expanding their inpatient facilities tremendously and began to rapidly fall downhill. The complex grew to over 902 acres with 78 buildings.
Holy fuck.
The complex consisted of a psychiatric hospital for the mentally ill and criminally insane, a poorhouse, and an infirmary for tuberculosis patients. The facility was plagued by reports of patient abuse, beatings, neglect, unsanitary conditions, patients being chained to the walls, and serious overcrowding.
Holy shit.
As many as 125 women shared 5 toilets. And at one time, 3,800 people were crammed into quarters designed for 2,000 people.
You're kidding.
So they were over the limit by 1,800 in one quarter. Like when you look at numbers, you're like, oh, that's not so much. No. Imagine 1,800 people not having a bed to sleep in.
No, I couldn't imagine.
Like, where do you sleep?
It's like that prison in New York. It starts with an R. I can't think of the name of it. And people are literally having to boycott it right now because it needs.
Right now.
It's currently called Rhyme. Is it Rhymes or? Oh God, I literally was just reading about it earlier this morning. I'll come back to it. Keep going. But currently, what you're reading is happening today, 2022, in New York.
How does that even fucking happen?
It's an island. I'll think of the name of it in 2 seconds. Keep going.
Eloise became a dumping ground for people whose families like couldn't or didn't want to take care of them, and for the poor that were looking for a home with food and beds. People often had to bring their own mattresses in order to be housed there.
What?
Boredom was also a major problem between like waking and bedtime. The people basically just sat and stared at the walls or their feet in the windows. Like there was no activities to get them out of the house, or there was no carpentry anymore. There was no cooking classes.
Right, it wasn't involved anymore because they just overpopulated it. Yeah, it's called Rikers, by the way.
Rikers, yeah, I've heard of Rikers. That's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Patients who were given passes to leave the grounds were usually arrested by like the township's police.
What?
And fined or just disappeared. No one ever knows what happened to them.
Wow.
By the 50s, Eloise provided the newest forms of treatment for the mentally ill. Things like calming hydrotherapy, sensory deprivation chairs, twirling chairs, steel cabinets in which staff would lock their patients and then insert needles to put water directly into their skin.
I'm sorry, when you were like hydrotherapy, I was like, oh, that's really nice. Like the bed, you know.
No, I'm talking steel closets where they locked in and they said hydrotherapy, needle water.
Like, is that even safe?
No,
like that's not. There's what?
Straight jackets, shackles, and then the usual lobotomies.
Oh my God.
Patients at Eloise Asylum were also sterilized, and this is so fucking sad. Back in the 1800s, explorer and statistician Sir Francis Galton founded the idea of eugenics based on Charles Darwin's theory of evolution with a sprinkle of Herbert Spencer's theory of natural selection. So that's what created eugenics. Galton believed that the human race could be improved if, quote, physically and mentally superior, end quote, people married each other and procreated. Jesus. This would eliminate children born with deformities and diseases. When this came out,
fucking idiot,
the state of Michigan passed a law called the Compulsory Sterilization Legislature for the, quote, mentally defective or insane and the, quote, living in public institutions, or anyone living in public institutions. And this was passed in the state of Michigan in 1913.
1913?
Mm-hmm. Close to 4,000 people in Michigan were forced to be sterilized from 1913 to 1963.
Shut the fuck up. 1963?
The majority of these people were from Eloise institution, and majority of those people that were already at Eloise were women and minorities.
Oh my fuck. You want to know why there were so many fucking serial killers and counterculture shit going on in the 60s, 70s, and 80s? Because you fuckers did that.
Yeah.
You literally did that.
You're
You
gonna
hurt
be more
people.
off.
Oh, God.
So apparently HIPAA was not a thing at this time because I don't know if the institution themselves like reached out to a local news reporter or if the local news reporter reached out to them, but there was an article. They were headliners and they talked about a patient at their facility. Her name was Zoe Miller. She was 23 years old and she was a mother of 3 already, and she was slated to be operated on Eloise on August 16th, 1913. And this article was about her after the legislation passed. And I'm sorry, I actually skipped a thing in my notes. This article came out for sterilizations 10 days after the law had passed. So within 10 days, they released this article about Zoe.
And it probably took 10 fucking days for the article to get out because of how slow it was to print and get shit out. Which means
they already did it.
So that means it was already done.
Yeah. In the article, she was labeled as, quote, feeble-minded. And she was a patient at the asylum for an unknown amount of time.
Wow.
A physician named Dr. Marker would perform the operation, where he described in the article it would be, quote, a swift, deft motion of the knife, the tying of a couple of ligatures, a few stitches of cat gut, and the application of gauze dressing, and the deed would be done.
Cat gut. Just a swift form of the tying of the cat gut. No, you're literally taking
stitches of cat gut. Did you just call my vagina cat gut?
Cat gut?
Did you just call fallopian tubes cat gut?
I'm sorry. Wait, he's not actually using cat gut to this is referring to.
I think it's a slang term for pussy. I don't know. I should look it up. Because I've never heard of a scientific term called cat gut.
Cat gut?
Cat gut.
Referring to a vagina? A vagine? Are you kidding me?
Right?
No,
Morgan.
That's
how I took it as.
Oh my God. I was thinking that they were literally using cat gut
inside. Oh, I was thinking he was being derogatory towards female reproductive
organs.
Look,
you're better than, I'm over here giving him the benefit of the doubt, this motherfucker. You're shitting
But
me.
Cat gut is also a type of cord that is prepared from the natural fiber found in the walls of animal intestines. So either way, it doesn't fucking make anything better.
Either way, it's awful.
Either way, if you're calling my vagina cat gut, if you're calling my fallopian tubes cat gut,
if you're putting cat gut in my
cat gut in my fallopian tubes, we're gonna have problems.
If you're putting cat gut in my cat, we have a big fucking issue.
Yeah, period.
Are you kidding? And then you're killing cats.
Yeah, fucking
sicko. This fucking dude.
He then said that after the operation, Zoe would be transferred out of Eloise, and I'm assuming because it would just help her. I don't know. And she would live out the rest of her life at a state-run hospital that was designated for the feeble-minded. She was 23 years old.
She was 23 years old. She was a mom.
Of three.
And
they probably separated her from her children.
Oh, absolutely. That's what they did.
Yeah. In 1955, the Michigan Society of Mental Health calculated that on a per-patient basis, Wayne County General was the most expensive mental hospital in the world.
Wow.
So this is now 1955. Its name changed again to Wayne County General Hospital.
Wayne County General.
By 1958, the farming had ceased. Unused buildings at the complex were closed. Tunnels that were once used to shuttle patients between the buildings were sealed off at access points. And I actually read on someone's blog, I didn't use it because it's not really a reliable source, but I read that the lobotomies were performed in these tunnels. And that there was brain matter at the floor of the tunnels, still, just rotted, stained in and
You're shitting my dick.
Yeah. Oh, and that's why they closed them down, because I guess also it was illegal at a certain point and they were still performing them. So that's where they're using them. Doing them in the tunnels.
Putting them underneath the ground so literally no one would know about them. Wow.
By the 1960s, new theories for treatment of the mentally ill were developing. Psychiatrists began experimenting with brain chemistry, treating patients with pills and powders. The problem of mental illness in America grew so large that institutions just couldn't house everyone who needed services. A new approach called deinstitutionalism came about. We know a lot about this, which was really resulted to the end of no more mental hospitals.
Yeah.
Basically because they provided no long-term care. Therefore, when this happened, when they began to shut down each mental institution, they were just kind of returning patients to society as soon as possible, or shoving them out to halfway houses, and then still kind of treating them through at-home care. But a lot of people slip through the cracks because you think about foster care now, think about this kind of care back in the 70s, no one gave a shit about these patients.
No one gave a shit.
So a lot of people slipped through the cracks and they ended up out on the streets.
They honestly cared more about criminals than they did these people.
And that was another thing. Every single source, I said everybody was called an inmate, whether you were a patient. It was really hard to read through because I'm are they talking about the criminally insane, actual prisoners, or are they talking about
patients? Wow.
And because they referred to everybody as an inmate on almost every single source that I went through. The psychiatric buildings at Eloise were vacated in 1973. Psychiatric care ended in 1977 when the state of Michigan took over mental health services from the county. In 1979, the name of the hospital was changed back to Wayne County General. From 1839 with 35 residents to over 12,000 residents by the Great Depression, and then trickling back down to 1986 when its doors closed as a psychiatric unit. Between 1890s through the late 1940s, Eloise had its own morgue and 3 cemeteries with 7,145 burials of unclaimed bodies.
Oh my God.
And each grave was marked just by like a cement block with a number. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 7,145.
That is awful.
This cemetery was more like a couple hundred acres of fields, like that you have to pass through. Like if you were to go visit the institution today, you have to drive past these fields. They're on both sides of you. So this unmarked cemetery, along with the very moist abandoned tunnels under the basement, are said to have the most paranormal activity. Throughout the abandoned parts of this entire complex are abandoned pieces of history, glimpses into the past. You see your physician's chairs, your desk, your patient's lobotomy chairs, your triple stacked patient's bed, your stains on the wall, your stains on the floor, whatever you would picture like a terrifying asylum. Like that's exactly what it looks like.
And it's just of no use today?
I'll get there.
Oh, okay. I thought you already covered it.
You'll scream when I tell you what it is.
Oh, great.
People will report hearing echoes of like tormenting cries and screams, shadow people, footsteps and knocks. People feel cold spots, hands on the back of their body, cold air being blown at their neck. It's just got your basic I'm haunted as fuck vibes.
Right.
And actually Eloise psychiatric facility has like one of the most like caught on tape like paranormal experiences.
Wow.
Like literally search it. YouTube clips pop up everywhere.
Oh my God.
It's
so
fucking
excited.
crazy.
Actually,
it's fucking crazy.
I'll look in the morning.
And again, maybe this is why I'm having nightmares.
Yeah. We're like, why? Why?
And the cemetery was said to be grave robbed by like local med students who were needing anatomy bodies for their labs. But I'm going to tell you what the complex is now, but then I have a fun little story to read for you.
Oh.
So it's currently used as a strip mall.
Oh.
It's got condominiums. It's got mini golf with, of course, a little haunted house action to spook yourself out during the Halloween months. We weren't expecting that, were you?
Wait, it's got condos. It's a strip mall.
It's got mini golf. It's got a golf course now.
What the actual fuck?
Yeah. One of the buildings is used as an operating ground for Michigan Department of Community Health, which is actually fucking comical if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like, really? We're going to put the Department of Health.
Department of Health
the
is going to be
DOH
here.
right here.
Right here. This is
with all this history.
You know what? Can confirm. From being in Detroit for 3 days, can confirm.
Yeah. The firehouse and the power plant are still standing abandoned. A lot of the buildings, I think from the 78 buildings, only like 32 to 36 still stand.
Wow.
Most of the property is left in ruins. The bakery burnt down in April of 2016, leaving heavy damage due to an arson fire.
Holy fuck.
As of 2021, like still standing.
Wow.
But before I wrap up, I found this little guy and I want you to hold the fuck on tight because it's pretty crazy. This was posted by Reddit user BeepBop111 on Reddit thread Spooky Sea Jades. And to really throw you a fucking curveball, it is titled My Ouija Board Experience.
Oh no, Morgan, please.
I know.
Why would you do this to me?
I know.
Ouija board in this shithole in the strip mall.
It's not going to be what you expect.
Okay. I'm excited.
So this Reddit user says, sorry if this sounds badly worded. It's my first Reddit post, but I thought I would share my somewhat scary paranormal experience. It's also kind of a long story, sorry. I was 17 when I got into the idea of Ouija boards and really looked into how to properly use them. All the rules to follow so nothing bad should happen. I had been using a pendulum for a while to communicate, and my friend had used tarot to communicate. I kept getting strong communication with the pendulum and reoccurring spirits, so I wanted a board to get more specific answers. I made the board out of wood and paint and cleansed everything with incense the entire time. I almost forgot to put goodbye on the board, which was weird because I started painting the word, but I couldn't remember what I was doing until someone pointed out that I had forgot a word. Nothing happens that night, but the next day things got a little weird. I had to make a planchette, how did we say it? Planchette. Before the board could be used and decided to make it out of a piece of wood. I went to my garage to start sanding the wood down into the shape of planchette when I saw someone behind me. Not an actual person, but a giant dark shadow. My dog, who was outside, ran over to me and I started panicking. We had gotten new neighbors and there have been break-ins in the area, so I thought I was in trouble because I was that sure someone was behind me. I searched my whole yard and my house to find no one around. I finished the plancha and went inside, and I still didn't use the board as I didn't have anyone to use it with and was never told to play alone or in odd numbers. That night, I woke up at 5 a.m. I am a very heavy sleeper and I go to bed late and I wake up late, but I never wake up in the night. I thought it was weird and brushed it off until the next 6 days. I would jolt awake every single night at 5 in the morning. The next day, I was sitting in my room with my dog at home alone when I heard footsteps in my hallway between my room and my mom's. The hallway is carpet, but the wood underneath makes sound when someone steps on it. You could tell who was walking around by their footsteps usually, and I thought it was one of my parents until I realized that I was home alone. Day 4 of having the board, I was awoken by something hitting my window over and over again. I turned to see hornets running into my window. I live in Michigan, and we don't really get to see too many hornets.
What the fuck?
I looked to see 4 dead hornets on my windowsill, and more kept flying at it.
Oh, God.
I stored the Ouija board in my room, and I also had a large scratch running down my leg. I don't have any nails because of playing the bass, and at this point knew something was attached to my board even though it had never been used. Day 5 is the day I realized I needed to bury the board. I was in my room late at night watching YouTube. Everyone was in bed as it was 2 in the morning. All of a sudden I heard someone trying to close my door. The mirror on my door makes my door hard to close and makes a loud sound when you try to close it. I paused my video and I tried to see if it was just my rabbit making the noise as she thumps a lot. Love that they have a rabbit. I laid back down and 5 minutes later it happened again. I paused the video and I told myself it was my dog as I started to get scared. I lied down one more time, and when it happened again I paused everything and I texted my sister asking if she was closing my door, but she said that she was downstairs in the basement. At this point I was scared. Someone had gotten into the house and I'm very paranoid about a break-in. My sister came to check everything out and nobody was there. I cleansed the entire space and stored the board in my dresser and the planchette on my desk because I didn't trust the board. After we cleansed everything, nothing has happened since. I want another Ouija board, but the fact that even though the board had never been used yet all of this had happened makes me wary of getting one. I also forgot to include in the story that I live less than 2 minutes away from one of the most haunted places in Michigan. It was an old asylum called Eloise Asylum. The idea that someone from the asylum was haunting me would make sense. The spirits I was talking to before the board was a young boy from nearby. He didn't remember how he died, but that it was close, dark, and destroyed. The asylum is completely abandoned and haunted, and the back of the asylum had crumbled down near the playground near it. It would make sense that they were linked, but also make sense that the spirit was maybe not so nice. So the Ouija board was literally fucking haunted before he even used it.
Right.
Or she. Or they.
Literally, before they even touched it, it was haunted.
Yeah. Less than 2 minutes away from the asylum.
I mean, yeah. Don't... What
is your mother thinking?
Don't be fucking playing with Ouija boards inside the fucking asylum area.
I know.
It's like number 1 rule. I mean, shit. I mean, I bet the house is literally backs up to the fucking cemetery.
I'm sure it's on a cemetery.
I literally bet it's on top of it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That is so fucking scary.
I know. Fucking crazy.
That is insane.
Okay, that's all I have.
Morgan.
I know, crazy, right?
Well, no wonder you've been having awful fucking nightmares.
I know. Back to government conspiracies, please.
No, it's spooky season, bitch. I'm locked and loaded in. Okay, well, do you want to take over true crime and I'll take over spooky? Because every time I do it, though,
yeah, you're like, and then the devil rose,
and then the black-eyed kids came. Behind them was the fucking Grim Reaper, and then
that's why she covers the Grim Reaper.
Oh yeah,
Grim Reaper experiences.
Okay, and also I do have a request for a conspiracy, but you are not allowed for at least you can until October.
What if I want to do it next week?
No, you can. I'm just saying October. I want you to scare me.
Okay.
I want to hear people walking around in my attic. I'm so scared.
Okay, I'm not doing all that.
Yeah, that's what I fucking want. Yeah.
Okay.
I want to be that scared. So I was on TikTok. I sent this to you about Netflix. Did you watch it?
No.
Okay. So Netflix, the owner, can't think of his fucking name of it right now, but like the founder of Netflix. Do you want to know who his uncle is? Or maybe it's his dad. No, yeah, his dad. The owner of Netflix, his dad can't think of his name either, is who created propaganda. And it's called the father of public relations. And I actually studied this guy when I was a PR major and for all that time, and how public relations was built, and it was basically built on propaganda. That's the owner of Netflix fucking dad or uncle or something, okay?
That's fucking nutty.
Or grandfather. I don't remember, something like that. But okay, that dude who founded propaganda, Guess who his fucking uncle is? You're going to shit your fucking pants.
Who?
Sigmund Freud.
Shut up.
I'm not fucking lying.
I'm
not fucking lying. So the owner of Netflix, his fucking
uncle
is Sigmund Freud, and then the founder of PR and propaganda
is his father.
Is his father or uncle or brother, one of the two, or grandfather.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. I literally shit a brick.
That's fucking nuts.
When I watched that. I literally was like, what the fuck? It was a TikTok user. Yeah, I need to, if you need to look into this. Yeah, you know what? That's what you should do.
Ooh, did you hear about the Hell in Purgatory airport? Did you see that girl's stuff about Hell in Purgatory? So she was like, so my parents like to look on Google Maps like all the time, and it's out in North Carolina, and she goes, and they come across this like field like out in like the middle of North Carolina, and in the field it says Hell in Purgatory Airport, and you can't see an airport anywhere. You just see like a cornfield, and you see like a cutout of an airport, but there's no airport anywhere on Apple Maps. And so she's talking about it, and she was like, so I thought it was really interesting, so I go to look it up, and she's looking up on Google. She's like, I couldn't find any single thing about historical information on it. She was like, there was nothing about it on Google. She was like, but it will pull up on Google Maps, like here it is on Google Maps if you don't have an Apple iPhone. So her video goes viral on TikTok. The next day, someone had commented on her first video, it's gone off Google Maps.
Oh wait, shit! I did see this on TikTok. I didn't know what the name of it is.
It was fucking gone.
Gone off of fucking. Oh,
Google deleted it.
That sent me down this fucking TikTok hole about things that get deleted off of maps after it gets called out on like something that's viral, and it was talking about this like mansion that's somewhere in the world. I don't think it's in the US, somewhere in the world, and there's like a video of this person zooming in on it and like talking about it and like what it is and what the like locals say about it. The next day, gone. Wow.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
That's insane. What if those are just like visual versions of creepypastas? Maybe. I wonder. The fucking...
If I had a big field, I'd be like, oh, it's a Gates to Hell airport. Google.
Gates to Hell airport. Creeps and Crimes airport. And then someone finds it, we fucking mow it down really fast.
Oh, it's the portal to hell.
Then Netflix hires us because propaganda queens, obviously. Yeah. All right, my turn.
Yeah, your turn.
Okay, so I actually was going to do a different case, and I literally was gagging trying to cover it, and so I was like, you know what, it's a no from me. That's just my sign that that's not what we need to do.
Just a little switcherooski last minute.
Right. So then I started browsing through like names I had written down and cases and stuff from TikTok lives, from what you guys have recommended to us in the past. I came across this name and it stood out to me. I looked it up and I remember listening to this case and literally going down Reddit hole after Reddit hole, reading inquiries after inquiries. This was back way before we even had this podcast, before the podcast was even a thought, before I ordered the first mics back in 2019.
Way back when.
This is how far back I listened to this case and became obsessed with it. So when I rediscovered it, I was like, this is the one that I need to bring, and there's an update in it.
I love updates.
Right. So this is the case of Phoebe Handsjuk. Phoebe was born on May 9th, 1986 in Melbourne, Australia. She later had two younger brothers, Tom and Nick, and their mother, Natalie, traveled for work often, and her father, Lynn, worked as a psychiatrist. Their careers allowed the family to live in a very nice home in the Richmond suburb, and they raised a very happy family. From a young age, Phoebe was drawn to adventure and the outdoors. She was super creative. She loved writing in her journal daily with tons and tons of diaries. She wrote poems and entry after entry. She documented her entire life. And she was really close to her grandmother, who is her mother, Natalie's mom. It was like Jeanette, her grandmother, was a safe haven for her. Phoebe was extremely close with all of her family, though. And by that, I mean in constant contact, having like weekly dinners with each other, always there for each other, ready to celebrate each other. And this is despite the fact that Natalie and Lynn, her parents, had separated years before. They were still like very good at keeping this family unit together. In 2009, at 23 years old, Phoebe was working as a receptionist at a hair salon in South Yarra, I believe is how you pronounce it. And it was around this time that she was interested introduced to one of the salon regulars, 39-year-old Anthony Hampel. Anthony was charming, handsome, and came from a powerful family. His father was George Hampel, who was a former Supreme Court judge, and his stepmother was Felicity Hampel, who was the current county court judge. But Anthony did not follow in his father's footsteps. Instead, he used his charms and good looks to work as an event promoter, and he thrived in this career, constantly surrounded by wealthy individuals who were just as charming and powerful as he was. Anthony and Phoebe hit it off immediately, and her boss at the salon thought for sure this relationship would not last more than 2 hookups. So
she knew he was usually okay, no hate to the pampered man out there, but usually a salon guy, a regular, that keeps up with himself, immediately player. I have to beg Aaron to go get a haircut.
Oh my God, it is a fucking battle in my house for Logan to go get his haircut. But he started doing it on his own recently. And I'm like, will you at least go to a good barber?
Aaron went today and he goes,
what do you do?
Walks into the house and he's like, I mean, don't worry about saying anything about my haircut. I'm like, I'm sorry, you literally just walked in 3 seconds ago.
Right. Well, I told Logan, because every time he gets his haircut, I always comment on it. I'm like,
me too, but just give me a second.
Right. Give me a
I didn't even look up from my computer yet.
You just walked in and announced that he had hair. Don't even worry about looking at my haircut, flopping his locks. It's all good. It's all good.
It's all shaved, buddy.
Yeah, it's good. You just got your neck trimmed up, bud. It's all good. So funny. But Logan, actually, when I walked in today from getting my nails done, he never does this. And one time, normally I have to be at the end of the night, I'm like, you didn't even comment on my nails. I went and got my nails done. Do you not like them? Because I love nail art. Guys, nail art is my thing. And the second I walked in the door, he didn't even see me. He was on the other side of the fucking house. Your nails look great. I'm like, you can't even see them.
Yeah.
Turds.
Shitheads.
Right. So anyways, the salon manager who was Phoebe's boss was like, no shot this is going to last more than just 2 hookups. And 5 months later, in October of 2009, she was really wrong because Phoebe fucking moved in with Anthony in his 12th floor gorgeous apartment high rise called the Balencia apartment on St. Kilda Road.
I love it.
They were serious and celebrated Phoebe's 24th birthday together. They celebrated Anthony's 40th birthday in 2010 and their 1-year anniversary and the 1-year anniversary of them living together. The two shared everything: their love, their home, and even an iPhone, which I'm going to get back to.
Oh, that's odd.
On December 2nd, 2010, Anthony, Phoebe, and her father, Lynn, had plans to go out to dinner at their favorite restaurant. Now, this dinner was going to be a lot different than their regular Thai nights because Lynn was itching to see his daughter and speak with her in person, as he was extremely worried for Phoebe. The day before, on December 1st, 2010, at 10:30 in the morning, Phoebe had sent this text message in a group to her father, Lynn, her mother, Natalie, her boyfriend, Anthony, who she lived with, her boss, Michelle, her brothers, Tom and Nick, her grandmother, Jeanette, and her mother's boyfriend, Russell. And it says, "Hi, family," in all caps. "I am in bed about to sleep, and when I wake," in all caps, "I will transform into the most incredible human being it says being, that you've ever seen. Not. I will go to the hospital. It's safer there, and I hear the special tonight is tomato soup. Delicious. Nutritious. I love you all very much, but not enough to send an individual text. Sorry about that, but time is sleep, and I must be on my way. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. XO."
Whoa.
At the time, Natalie, Phoebe's mom, was traveling back home from a 9-week work thing that she had to do, and so she didn't get the message right away as she was boarding the flight when it was delivered. But quickly after this, her family members, obviously very fucking concerned about this cryptic message, began messaging back and forth, being
it's almost like delirium.
Right, is she okay? What's going on? They knew that Phoebe struggled with depression and anxiety and had been medicated for her mental illnesses and mental struggles since the age of 15. But they also knew that Phoebe would often self-medicate with various drugs and alcohol. The lifestyle that Anthony was living was not healthy, especially for Phoebe's mental struggle and her state. By 10:35 a.m., Phoebe's grandmother, Jeanette, who she was very close with, called Anthony at his work, and he explained that when he left that morning, Phoebe was completely fine. She was just coming off of a bender from the day before, so she was a little spacey and just really needed to sleep. But to calm everyone's nerves, Anthony agreed, telling Grandma that he was going to go and check on Phoebe and would check back. Now, there are no reports on if he actually went and checked on Phoebe, as he worked, I think it's 8 to 13 minutes away, or ever called anyone back to confirm that she was okay, but his tone of reassurance made everyone feel a lot better and more at ease, knowing that she was just tired when she sent this.
For sure, yeah.
At least for the day, that is, just until Lynn would be able to see his daughter in person that next evening. So on December 2nd, 2010, Lynn got off work and was getting ready to go meet Phoebe and Anthony for dinner. At 6:51 p.m., Lynn called Phoebe and Anthony's iPhone that they shared to let them know that he was running a little bit behind schedule. But before we move on, let's discuss the phone situation in detail.
Yeah, that's so odd.
Right. So personally, Phoebe had a Nokia phone, and that was one that she paid for and she sometimes used. But Anthony had gotten her this iPhone, which they sometimes shared, and maybe it was more of a house phone, but they also had a landline, but it was a phone that he had gotten for her.
Okay.
But it was both of theirs technically. And Anthony had his own personal iPhone, which he primarily used for work. Very little personal texting back and forth. That was mainly done on their AKA shared-ish iPhone.
So weird.
Right. So the phone that Lynn had called at 6:51 p.m. was that shared iPhone, and there was no answer when he called. He didn't think much of it, thinking maybe Phoebe's getting ready and away from the phone, she'll call back any second. Well, not even 30 seconds later, at now 6:52 p.m., Lynn gets a call from Anthony from his phone. And you're probably okay, well, why would this be odd? Anthony and Phoebe have been together for over a year, living together, etc. Well, according to the Age's reporting, this was the first time that Anthony had ever called Lynn in their entire relationship.
Yeah, that's weird.
Right. So Lynn answers and says something along the lines of, hey, I was just calling to let you guys know I'm running a little behind, but, just confirming we're going to be meeting at the Golden Triangle Thai restaurant. And Anthony was not calling about their plans, specifically at least. He was calling because Phoebe was not home, and she hadn't been home since Anthony had gotten home an hour before, just around 6 p.m. So he was calling to be oh, I figured she had just left and meet you early and that I was supposed to be coming later or y'all left me out.
Yeah, but he called 30 seconds after.
Right. And Lynn at this point is really fucking concerned because Anthony's well, actually, now that I'm looking around, I see her purse, I see her keys, I see her wallet, and you have to have the key fob to get out of the building. So she's got to be somewhere around here. So don't worry about it. Lynn's obviously not fucking okay. And he tells Anthony to call and report her missing because that's how worried he was. And Anthony is look, I don't think they're going to be able to do anything until the 48-hour mark. And typically she comes back before then when she does disappear. Another thing is the iPhone that Lynn had called 30 seconds before was not in the apartment. It was in the shop. According to Anthony, that is. And he had called Lynn out of the blue without having any idea that just 30 seconds prior, Lynn was trying to get a hold of Phoebe on the iPhone.
Okay, so just a weird coincidence then.
Right. So Lynn begins calling around to Phoebe's work friends, her family, everybody, to see if anyone had heard from her or seen her that day, but no one had. Meanwhile, as Phoebe's father, Dr. Phoebe Handsjuk, was calling around in search for his daughter, Anthony was not searching for his girlfriend. He actually ordered food for one to be delivered at his flat from the Golden Triangle at 7:20 p.m., where he, Phoebe, and Lynn were supposed to be meeting for dinner soon.
He had the craving, but...
Right, maybe he was just thinking she's probably, running off on one of her things. It's just not a good time. We're not going to be able to go eat, so I'm going to go ahead and order myself some food. But, also, why not get her food if you're convinced that she's going to be back soon?
Right, exactly.
She's probably going to be hungry, too. At 8:03 p.m., Anthony buzzed the delivery man up to his flat. And when the man got to the door, he said, according to crimereads.com, quote, "Man, what's going on here?" And Anthony replied, "What do you mean what's going on?" And the guy replies, The front of the building is swarming with cops, police cars, ambulances, etc. And I had to prop my bike up the street, and I hope your dinner isn't too cold. With the delivery man, Anthony then goes down to the lobby, walks up to an officer, and is like, what is going on? And the officer, who was acting Senior Sergeant Andrew Healy, told Anthony that a woman's body was found in the garbage compactor room. Anthony, now frantic, tells Sergeant Healy that his girlfriend is missing and asking if it was her, like saying everything about her. Healy asked Anthony for more details about Phoebe while escorting him to the other detectives. Anthony said that he had been at work all day and had talked to Phoebe on the phone a few different times, but it was on their landline because her iPhone was in the shop for repair. But when he got home just after 6 p.m., she was not there and she was not answering her Nokia, her personal phone. He explained that she suffered from depression and was on medication for it and had been coming off of a bender, and it was typical for her to disappear sometimes, but she would come back not long after. It was normally just like blow off steam when she would go away like this. Anthony goes on to say he has been extremely worried about her this time though, because their apartment was in a weird condition. However, there were no clues left behind as to where she could have gone that day. Sergeant Healy asked Anthony if Phoebe had any tattoos or distinguishing features, to which Anthony told officers that she had a tattoo on her right wrist that matched his, and a Monroe piercing on her upper lip. And a Monroe piercing is like right above your lip in the skin, if you don't know what that is. So he shows them his tattoo, which is the matching tattoo, and they're like, okay, go up to your apartment and bring down a picture, like a photo of Phoebe down to us. So he goes up to his apartment to get the picture, but not long after, Healy is reviewing the crime scene photos of the woman's body, and he follows Anthony up to his flat. Once there, he asked Anthony if she had a tattoo on her stomach, and Healy then reviewed the photos of Phoebe with Anthony and confirmed that he believed Phoebe was the victim that they had found. Sergeant Healy had no cell phone service in Anthony's apartment, so he had to get back on the elevator, go down to the lobby, and get another detective, leaving Anthony behind in the apartment and returning shortly after to explain what they believe happened to 24-year-old Phoebe. Just after 7 p.m. that evening, the concierge for the apartment building went to the basement in search for a broom, which typically was stored in the trash compactor room. But when she unlocked the door, there was something blocking it, so the woman actually had to shoulder shove this door open, only to find that what was blocking the door was the body of a woman, which we now know to be 24-year-old Phoebe. She was lying in a pool of blood with a trail behind her, as if she had been crawling to the locked door.
Oh my God.
The concierge immediately went back upstairs to the lobby desk and called 000, which is their 911 in Australia, reporting what she had found to police. The police arrived shortly after and completely blocked off the scene. Paramedics arrived just 9 minutes after them at 7:30, but were not permitted to approach the crime scene or examine Phoebe's body. Investigators concluded that she had somehow fallen down the garbage chute from her 12th floor apartment. However, the 40-meter fall was not what killed her. She had been severely cut by the sharp blades of the trash compactor before falling to the floor. The blades had almost severed her right foot off, like it was almost amputated. And somehow, even with these injuries, she was able to pull herself out of the compactor's blades and crawl to the door in the dark, locked room. So once she made it to the door, she likely banged on it for help. There was bloody handprints on it, but no one was ever in the basement to hear her.
Oh my God.
And they believe that Phoebe bled out due to her injuries on her foot in about 5 to 11 minutes after her fall. When Sergeant Healy returned with another detective to Anthony and Phoebe's apartment on the 12th floor, they asked Anthony to identify her body, all the while taking notes of the apartment's condition. On the floor, they saw broken glass from what they assumed to be a wine or a drinking glass. And they assumed this because there had been 2 wine glasses on the table beside it and some sort of a liquid substance on the wall. And there was blood on the floor and the door. They observed post-it notes that Phoebe had allegedly left behind in like manic writing on her bed in like a shrine situation. And the couple's dog was currently, while the officers were in there, ripping apart couch cushions.
Oh.
Like, hectic.
Ollie would be doing that shit too.
Right. Anthony told detectives that he was too devastated to be able to identify Phoebe's body, and officers began focusing on the 12th floor trash chute, leaving Anthony alone in the flat once again. The officers found blood on the floor directly below the trash chute and blood on the door handle into the trash chute room. However, there were no handprints, no fingerprints, no blood on the chute itself. It was almost as if it had been wiped
down.
Clean. Mm-hmm. While left alone in the apartment again, Anthony called his mother, Suzanne Owen, and his stepfather, Robert, as his father, Judge Hampel, and stepmother, Justice Felicity Hampel, were out of town that evening. Once off the phone with his mother, it was only then that Anthony decided to call Lynn and break the news that his daughter was dead. Anthony told Lynn that he and his sons should come to the apartment complex immediately. According to the Crime Reads article I was reading about this, and it's a really good book called, I think it's Into the Dark. It's about this case, and there were tons of excerpts from it in there, and it's really very detailed and great research, by the way, if you guys want to read it. Lynn later said that he was in such shock that he sat on the floor just motionless before picking up his phone to call his son Tom. Once Tom answered, Lynn decided that he couldn't tell his son this news over the phone. So in tears, he told his son to come home immediately from his girlfriend's house. Lynn then called Natalie, who was unable to answer the phone at first, but moments later she was able to call him back, asking if they had found Phoebe, as if she just knew that this was about her. Lynn told Natalie to sit down because this was bad. Natalie fell to her knees in her driveway as she was unloading her car at the time, screaming, and just hung up on
Can't even fucking imagine,
on
dude.
Lynn. Russell, her partner, heard Natalie and ran out to find her on the ground. He picked her up and carried her inside before calling Natalie's mother, Grandma Jeanette, who was actually in town with her husband, Lorne, for Nick's birthday celebration, which is Phoebe's younger brother. It was his 18th birthday that was going to be taking place the next day. Russell told Jeanette to come straight to their house. Just like Natalie, Jeanette's maternal instincts just kicked in, and she just knew that this was about Phoebe and immediately asked if she was okay. Russell told her that she needed to just be at the house now and hung up the phone. Jeanette arrived just moments later, where she was told this news. Devastated, she immediately pulled out her phone and showed Russell and Natalie that she had gotten a message from Anthony that morning because she had checked on him and Phoebe. So Anthony responded to her message just being like, hey, just thinking about you guys, hoping you guys are doing good. And Anthony responded just after 8 a.m. and said, thanks, Marm. She is sleeping beauty right now, not the beast that she was, referring to the bender that had taken place 2 days before. She is resting well, and I've explained now that it's time to heal. Then, when she feels okay, we will work out a plan. Investigators immediately began tracing Phoebe's footsteps from that day, and here is the timeline of their findings. And I obtained this using the Aegis podcast, Phoebe's Fall, and the documents that they have posted on their website. And if you want to do a really good deep dive into this case, you have got to go listen to this podcast. The document that I'm specifically referring to right now in this timeline is the submission of the counsel assisting PDF that you can find at the bottom of their resources. But before we dive into this, you must know that the only way to access this apartment building, like not even the building itself, the building, the individual apartments, and I believe get out of the building and get onto the elevators, is by using a key card. And each resident was assigned a personalized card and code that was associated with their card. Both 533 and 664 were assigned to Anthony and Phoebe's flat on their 12th floor. They often swapped cards or accidentally grabbed the others, but Phoebe's was typically 664 and Anthony's was 533. At 8:47 a.m. and at 8:50 a.m., an email file and a Safari file was created on the apartment's iMac computer in the apartment study. At 9:01 a.m., Anthony had left the apartment for work, swiping his card 533 while leaving the garage in his Land Rover, which, according to Anthony, when he left, Phoebe was still asleep and in the bed. However, at 9:15 a.m., Safari files were created once again on the iMac, aka Phoebe was doing this. Now, granted, the created file files basically means, okay, from what I found, creating a file whenever you're looking on the back end of the computer, I think that's when you just do a search, like opening up a tab. Right. So it's just like a Safari search or a Google search. But those are the terms that were used by the digital forensic analyst, Mr. Alexander Robertson, with the Victoria Police E-Crimes Unit. And she checked her emails or created an email file once again at 11:24 a.m. At 11:50 a.m., Phoebe was seen on CCTV footage leaving the building with her dog and her purse in tow. She was wearing her favorite Prada sunglasses, jeans, and a tank top for a scheduled fire drill, so that she just had to like walk out and walk back in until they could like be okay with it.
Shut it off, yeah.
Right. Well, 4 minutes later, once the drill was completed, Phoebe used her access card 664 to get onto the elevator and go up to floor 12, her flat. Once back in the flat, the iMac was used once again. There she created 2 different GarageBand files at 12:01 p.m. and 12:02 p.m. Mr. Robertson, who was doing this analysis at the computer, was unable to confirm whether these files were being used, like if she was active on these files for the next few minutes or the next few hours, because it looks like there's human interaction with the files, but they can't solely differentiate if the computer file was just like running on its own and she was away from it, or if, you know.
Right.
And like, good luck if I went missing and you guys used my computer files. It would be like she has 9,000 tabs open constantly. We don't know if she's actually on it, you know, because I'll just leave this bitch on playing one of our episodes.
Or exporting something.
Right, exporting something for hours. They believe that it was human interaction as there were like changes being made to these files. At 2:19 p.m., the iMac recorded activity in the system processing menu. However, that looks to be a computer automated activity, not Phoebe controlling the computer herself. Anthony's alibi for this like afternoon and morning is primarily confirmed by his coworkers and the office staff, saying that he had been at the office from approximately 9:15 a.m. until just before 6 p.m. that evening, as his apartment was only 8 to 13 minutes away from the office, depending on traffic. According to his coworkers, Anthony only left the office for between 30 minutes to an hour for a lunch break, and at 6:09 p.m., Anthony used his access card with the 553 or 533 code to get into the building's garage after work and park his car. He then went straight up to his apartment, where he cannot remember if the door was locked or not when he arrived. The first thing that he noticed was Phoebe's absence, but her purse and key card was left behind. There were pieces of broken glass on the floor leading to the kitchen area, and at 6:19 p.m., 7:01 p.m., 7:39 p.m., and 7:40 p.m., the iMac recorded files being created and moved around on the computer due to human interaction, which Anthony says was him searching for clues as to where Phoebe could be. He checked the iMac's search history, recently played songs, and any of the tabs that were open. As he is doing this, Anthony says he notices fresh blood smeared on the computer mouse, desk, and keyboard. At this point, he says he's growing extremely worried. Yet, after further analysis of the iMac, we are able to see what he was actually looking up when he was searching through the tabs. It shows that he had logged onto his Facebook and was looking around on the feed, liking people's pictures and posts.
Oh, super concerning.
He then stepped out on the balcony and had a cigarette, and then he fed the dog, called his coworker, talked about some work shit. Right. And then at 6:20 p.m., the fire alarm was triggered once again in the building from a repair being made on accident, and the fire department had to come back up, turn it off, and the concierge was unable to do it. And then they had to go down to the basement, which is where they discovered Phoebe's body at just around 7 p.m. that evening. And again, police arrived at 7:18 p.m. So that is the timeline. So we know that Phoebe was active on her computer for sure the last time at 12:01, 12:02. But we don't know how long she was interacting with these.
Possibly till 2.
Right. We have no idea. Pretty quickly, because of Anthony's statements about Phoebe's struggles with depression and anxiety, detectives decided that Phoebe's death was a trigger warning. Also, trigger warning because I'm going to be talking about this a lot, for suicide. They just basically were like, it's a suicide, point blank, period. And Phoebe was discovered to be wearing the same outfit that she was wearing, other than the shoes that she was wearing that she was seen in on the CCTV footage during the fire drill. She had her Prada sunglasses still on her head, And investigators included that she must have gone feet first down the chute for her foot to be in the condition that it was and for her to be able to survive that fall. But there were some injuries that were inconsistent with this conclusion. Her legs were severely cut, and her butt was bruised with some anal lacerations. She had a cut on the right side of her jaw and blunt force trauma to the left side of her head, so severe that it actually caused brain damage.
Whoa.
She had bruises and strange markings on her right arm, left wrist, and her neck. Her BAC was 0.16, 3 times the legal limit. And she still had a high dosage of Stilnox in her system, which is Ambien. So medications like Stilnox or Ambien, they're like sleeping medications.
Right.
And they're known to cause you hallucinate on them, you're delirious, you can sleepwalk, you can sleep drive. It's like muscle memory.
You are not supposed to leave your
You're
house.
literally, as soon as you take an Ambien, you're supposed to get in the fucking bed and like strap yourself to it. Like you don't do anything. Actually, my mom's really good friend, Amy, you know Amy, Scoots' mom, she used to be on Ambien, and she fucking woke up one day standing outside in the bushes. And it was because she took her Ambien, got in the bed and was like, oh shit, I forgot to get a water. Went downstairs to get a water.
Ended up in the bushes.
And then wakes up in the bushes the next morning.
It's nuts.
It's insane. Like how people are so affected.
I would love to be on it.
No, I would not.
The sleep I would get.
No, Morgan, you would literally be battling sleep paralysis demons.
I would.
I would literally be walking and talking around like normal. You'd be like, I'd be editing. I'd be up editing because it's muscle memory. That's you don't do anything that you don't typically do, which is another thing. You don't typically do anything that you wouldn't normally do. It's typically like a routine or something that's like muscle memory for your body. It's not like you're gonna go outside and run naked in the street, unless you do that regularly. But it's something that's your brain is used to doing. It just kind of goes into like autopilot, basically. And when drugs like Ambien or Stilnox are combined with alcohol, it can be extremely dangerous. It can cause suicidal ideations. It can alter one's perception, their judgment, and really affect their moods. Well, the presence of drugs and alcohol of the levels that were in Phoebe's system did nothing more than reinforce investigators' theories that she had committed suicide. And trigger warning again for suicide and self-harm for this next section. From the age of 15, Phoebe suffered from depression and was given prescription medication to treat this. But this was only after she had been experimenting with drugs and alcohol. She then ran away from home to live with an ex-convict that she had met online and his child for 8 weeks. When she returned home, she was taken for treatment where she was prescribed the antidepressants. And shortly after this, she got into a relationship with a teacher that was twice her age. As I stated prior, Phoebe was known for treating her depression and anxiety with recreational drugs and alcohol. But it wasn't like she was drinking every day, though. She would go several weeks without taking a sip of alcohol or doing any drugs. It was just that she would go on benders and drink heavily for days at a time and then would go sober again for months. And that's just how her cycle was. 9 months prior to her death, Grandma Jeanette noticed a cut on Phoebe's wrist and asked her about it. Phoebe explained that she was not suicidal, and Anthony actually clarified that sometimes when she mixes her sleeping pills with alcohol, she would self-harm. But Phoebe's friends and family did not believe that this is how or when Phoebe would choose to end her life if she were going to. Well, and look, I completely understand that suicidal ideation, depression, anxiety, mental illness, it has no timeline, and it's not a one size fits all. And sometimes there are really no reasons why. And sometimes the like most happy, positive people on the outside are like the ones who are struggling the most on the inside. And at the end of the day, it can just be randomly anything. They decide to end their lives and no one was prepared for it. No one thought that this could ever happen. Right. And so when I say this, I don't want you to think I'm being like, but this is different. This is different. No, this is just what the family and friends believed. So with all that being said, Phoebe's friends and family believed that if she were going to end her life, she would have never have done it the day before her little brother's 18th birthday. especially when her grandmother was in town, who she loved and idolized. And if she were going to do this on impulse, she would not do it by shoving herself into a very narrow trash chute. She would do it by jumping off of the balcony on the 12th floor, as this is like what she joked about doing with her friends, like, or threatened it sometimes. But it was never the chute. Like, that was never a thing in her mind.
Yeah.
It was always the balcony. But just as combining still knocks and alcohol can cause these side effects that I had mentioned prior, they also would have affected her physically, like on an extreme level. And I mean, like, not speaking clearly, slurring, very bad balance, making it hard to walk and move around unassisted, aka making it extremely fucking difficult for one person to put themselves with no help into a narrow trash chute that measured at 21.5 inches wide and 11.8 inches tall. Yes, Phoebe was petite and would absolutely be able to fit into this chute, but not easily, and absolutely not while under the influence of that amount of drugs and alcohol in her system, like investigators claim. And no one knows this better than retired police detective Lorne Campbell, who is Phoebe's grandfather.
Oh.
As soon as he received the call about what had happened to his grandbaby, he put back on his detective hat and he was like, fuck some retirement. This is my baby. I'm coming back in. And he knew one thing for sure, he said. It was that Phoebe was murdered. And the detectives who were working her case had tunnel visioned on the suicide as the answer because it would be easier. So much so that they did not even request, examine, or obtain the building's CCTV footage, key cards, logs, or any of Phoebe's phones, computers, or devices until 5 days after her death. Not only that, but they never once took any fingerprints from the 2 glasses of wine that were sitting on the table in the apartment. Only a quarter of the blood and the liquids found in the apartment by investigators were sampled and DNA tested, but the majority of them were not. The blood on the door to the trash chute on the 12th floor was never tested. The hard drive of the CCTV footage that they had officially obtained after 5 fucking days happened to get misplaced and never seen again.
Convenient.
Anthony's iPhone was never seized on the night that she died. It was never searched through until weeks later. They never attempted to access her emails until weeks after they had seized her computer, at which point they had all been mysteriously swiped and deleted.
Wow.
It was clear that the 12th floor chute door and the wall had been wiped down, aka all of the evidence, fingerprints, were gone. They never considered that her hair straightener was left on at the time that detectives were in the fucking apartment. So this is at 7. At 7:30 is when they were in the apartment. Her hair straightener was still on. What do we know about hair straighteners and women with hair straighteners?
You triple check.
You fucking throw that thing out in the front yard before you walk out the door, not knowing that it's off. And to me, that was like the number one thing. But then also, when the detectives walked into the apartment, it smelled like fresh incense had just been burned.
Oh, wow.
And guess who was the only person who burned incense? Phoebe. Oh, and did I mention that ambulance officer Cook, who had arrived at the scene just 9 minutes after police, when Phoebe's body was discovered, was told that she was not allowed to access the crime scene or assess Phoebe's remains, which was against all training, all protocol. In fact, so much so that ambulance officer Cook argued with investigators about it. The officers that were guarding the crime scene assured her that Phoebe was dead upon arrival, and there was no need for paramedics on the scene as it would possibly contaminate the scene.
Bro, what if she was alive?
Come to find out, not a single fucking person touched Phoebe's body to determine if her skin was cold, warm, or hot. They never once touched her to search for a pulse to be fucking positive that she was not still alive. And in the midst of all this fucking dickery, because of this, no exact time of death or time frame of death can even be determined because they have no idea what the temperature of her body was when they fucking discovered it.
Wow.
Unfortunately, this is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to fuck-ups made by these investigators. But before we continue, let's talk about Grandpa Detective Lorne and what he found focusing on the trash chute. The only reason investigators believe that Phoebe entered the 12th floor trash chute is because the traces of blood that they found in the chute room. Their theory is that she was getting ready and, she had already been struggling, as we had seen in that December 1st text message. And maybe she was drinking and took her meds, just trying to tame the anxiety while getting ready for dinner. She's straightening her hair, she's having a glass, she's, burning some incense, listening to some music, and she accidentally drops her wine glass and it shatters on the floor. And maybe this was the trigger. Maybe this was the thing. It was the pent up of all the frustration and all the anxiety and everything, and cleaning it up, because half of it was cleaned up and she took it to the trash chute. Maybe when this happened and she threw that down the trash chute, she was like, I'm going to go down with it. Whether it was suicidal intentions or an intrusive thought that just won.
Or that's what medicine, or
so many other things. Yeah. There's so many.
Or an accident.
An accident, but there's no such thing as an accident going down this, which we're going to get to. If this was the case, would she be able to get into this chute with no one around to help her? Well, Grandpa Detective Lorne was determined to find this out with the help of Australia's 60 Minutes. So as I stated before, the chute itself measured at 11.8 inches tall and 21.5 inches wide. From the floor, the chute hatch door on the 12th floor was about 40.4 inches off the ground. So it's just like floating in the center of this wall. And the chute hatch, which she would have had to squeeze herself into to go down the chute, only opened 8.7 inches. Well, at the time of her death, Phoebe was 5'7" and weighed 125.7 pounds. However, the pathologist who performed her autopsy claims that she actually barely measured at 5'5", which is 166 centimeters tall, despite the fact that literally her fucking doctor's visits from the last fucking 10 years, because women stop growing at like fucking 12,
right?
Say that she's fucking 175 centimeters tall.
That out?
So she's 5'7". Like, I don't know what the actual fuck. Anyways, I digress. Retired Grandpa Detective Lorne Campbell contacts the garbage chute manufacturer, and he has them recreate the exact same model and measurements of this trash chute. And then 60 Minutes Australia puts this on the wall of the exact same texture, finish, height, measurements as the apartment building 12th floor trash chute. And once this is completed, Phoebe's best friend, who is the same height and weight as Phoebe, puts on the exact same outfit that Phoebe was wearing, and they recreated what Phoebe would have had to do to get into the chute by herself. But with a completely sober friend on the 60 Minutes Australia documentary that they did. This video is going to be linked in our show notes below, and when you click on this link, because I need you to watch this to understand what we're about to be describing to you, go ahead and fast forward to the 12:52 mark and watch until the 14:10 mark. And while you're doing that, I'm going to show it to Morgan, and we'll all come back and discuss it.
It is such a small hatch.
Like 8.6,
physically fucking impossible. She couldn't do it.
No,
they had to help her.
And there's like
two people had to help her.
There's like a base on the other side. Like when you think about putting like a mailbox, like, right, one of the USPS mailboxes.
Right.
It's got that thing on the end.
To block it. To block it. Falling in.
Right. Until you turn it. So there's like a little thing on the other side.
And if they didn't have them, if she didn't have them on the other side to hold it open, it literally would have snapped shut and chopped her head off.
Literally.
Once her arms were underneath, there was nothing blocking that pressure.
Right.
Her face was smashed up against it.
And the difference is the friend is standing on floor when she gets through, because there's not a chute there. Whereas if Phoebe was in this position, she would have been just hanging there and not had anything to push up on to be able to get her hands through without hurting herself.
Yeah.
And put that force against the hatch door, which automatically closes. It's got one of those pulleys on the inside.
Yeah, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
It makes no sense. So she's visibly struggling to get into this chute on this clip that we're watching. She's literally having to use the wall, standing on the other people around her, like to support her, like on the hatch as she's trying to shimmy into it. And in the end, the only way that she could have fit is if her hands and her arms were straight above her head, like in the touchdown position. Even still, once into the chute, barely, the reporter and her Phoebe's grandfather, are having to hold this hatch to prevent it from closing on her fingers as she's trying to shimmy down into it. But if Phoebe's fingers were in the same position, they would have shown like signs of being snapped on, like 100%.
Yeah, she would have shown a lot of bruising.
Right.
In a lot of areas.
Specifically on her fingers. And there were no signs on Phoebe's fingers of a hatch door shutting on them.
Yeah.
And unlike her friend, obviously, Phoebe did not have the floor to stand on to support her while that weight's pushing against her to keep that door open to prevent it from closing on her fingertips. And if this were suicide, she for damn sure would not have any help getting into this thing. And also, there's one other thing. Phoebe's injuries were not consistent with her hands being above her head during the fall. Not at all. Investigators claim that her hands would have had to been beside her body, getting into the chute and down into the tunnel, into the incinerator, the entire time.
Because there's no way, it's such a tight space the whole entire time. There's no way for her to maneuver that underneath.
But
right?
The only way that the friend could get in was with her hands above her head.
Right, but I'm saying like for Phoebe, she couldn't have gotten in with her hands up and then put them down because it's such a tight space.
It's
There's
such
no room
a tight squeeze. And investigators claimed that her hands would have had to be by her side in order to cause the bruising that was on her arms and her elbows, where it was obvious that she tried to brace her fall, is what they're saying. Well, if that was the case and her arms were by her side, there's no way that she would have been able to A, fit into the hatch door, B, slide down the chute, because it literally would have held on to her. Like,
no fucking way.
It would have been clogged. And one last thing. When Phoebe's body was discovered, her jeans were pulled below her knees. But she fell feet first, is what they're saying. So wouldn't you expect the exact opposite if you're falling feet first? Instead of pulling your jeans down, which by the way, were being held up by a belt, as you saw the friend have on a belt. That was the exact same outfit that she was wearing. Wouldn't it just given her a wedgie, if anything?
Right.
And, well, maybe, like, they say, like, oh, well, when she fell, maybe it unbuckled and they just dropped down.
It doesn't happen.
Women's jeans don't fuck. I have to literally rip mine off of me to pee. There's no way that's possible. So they're like, well, maybe when she hit the ground, they just went down. Maybe the things that cut her foot chopped, the thing open, or like forced it open, basically.
Yeah.
Well, no, because she had on a fucking belt. So
no fucking way.
If it wasn't caused by the fall down the 12 stories that took her pants down, the only other logical explanation is when she got into the hatch, the only way that this is possible is if her pants were already around her knees when she was trying to shimmy into this hatch door.
Yeah, and why?
And that's impossible. This girl literally
decreases your mobility by like 50%. Like,
right.
I mean, I don't know the exact statistics, but like,
I mean,
how are you going to bend your knees? Like, I mean, you know how it's you waddle around when your pants are down by your knees.
Right. They're like tied together, especially if she was wearing tight jeans.
Yeah.
There's no way that with a belt on them.
How are you going to climb up with that with your pants down?
Right.
How are you going to climb into that? You can't.
Right. And so they're like, okay, well, maybe she took them off when she landed. No, because the injuries were consistent to her pants being up when she landed. So it just makes no sense. And they're just fucking talking circles. Everything about this case is just fucking appalling. And it just seems like it's impossible in every single way. And it just gets more and more confusing and concerning about the police work and the questions that were literally just left unanswered. And what if I told you that this was, yes, Anthony's first girlfriend that mysteriously passed away, but it was not his last, which I'm going to tell you about in part 2 on episode 103.
I hate it. Okay, but on a real fucking note, can we discuss that, like, if Phoebe's grandfather was not a retired detective, it would have been suicide. Yep. Case closed.
Case closed, done.
Seal it up and put it in the archive.
And that's like extremely concerning. And it just makes it all the more odd. And I'm not saying that Anthony is in any way, shape, or form guilty. Like, I'm not saying that. There's just inconsistencies, and it just looks bad on him that his family happens to be the fucking judges in this area.
Yeah.
But, I'm just leaving it at that for right now.
That's naughty.
Yeah. And we'll discuss honest to God, guys, this could be a 3-parter, but there's a lot of legalities in this case. So just bear with me as we go about this.
Flying by the seat of our pants.
Flying by the seat of our pants. I hope you guys enjoyed this.
Love you, bye.
Love you, bye.